Nets, the new look Nets, on the road against Cleveland. That's Kyrie's former team. He makes the return. He's pointing to the ring finger. He won a championship in Cleveland. Take it up fourth quarter. Nets have been trailing much of the night, but James Harden trying to bring them back. Took just 14 shots, finished with a 21-point triple-double. Under 3 minutes to go. Brooklyn is down 5. Kevin Durant finding his space. Doesn't need much. Finished with a team-high 38. It's a one-possession game. Just over a minute left. Joe Harris. No. Kyrie. Yes. Brooklyn ties it at 1:13 in the final minute. 11 seconds left. Colin Sexton turns it over. Kyrie's got a chance to win it. Look at the time. 4 seconds, 3 seconds, 2 seconds. Oh, it's poked away. They actually call a charge on Kyrie. That would be challenged. It would be reversed. There wasn't enough time left to do anything about it anyway, so we're going to overtime. First possession of the OT for Brooklyn. It's Kyrie. Off the screen. Straightaway three. 37 points in 48 minutes for Kyrie in his return. On the other side, Cleveland still down 3. Larry Nance Jr. Yes, we're tied at 120. Next, Nets possession. Harden driving, kicking. That's Jeff Green who knocks it down. Nets a 3-point lead. What a game. 5 seconds to go. Nets by 3. Sexton on Kyrie. 4 seconds, 3 seconds. Oh, he knocks it in. 1.6 seconds remaining. That one goes. So the Nets have one final chance to win it in the first overtime. Kevin Durant, he played 50 minutes, and that one's not there. We go to a second OT, and that would belong to the Cavs up by 5. It's Sexton. Yes, Sexton with a game-high 42. Cavaliers in double overtime. 147, 135. Kyrie, let's talk.
We'll have good nights, we'll have great nights, but it's how we galvanize this group together and how we sacrifice and compromise for the greater good.
Great glimpses. We start off the game very, very, very good. Just the entire game, we just got to find a way to get stops when we need to.
It felt perfect. It felt like we belong together. This journey together is going to be fun. It was a tough first start, and especially it was an up and down game for us. But I like where we are.
The big fella is up early with us here this morning. It's Kendrick Perkins. And Big Perk, this was a game we were so looking forward to, and it obviously, in a lot of ways, lived up to the hype with double overtime and all the big numbers. What was your number one takeaway from last night?
Well, Greeny, the number one takeaway was that Kyrie missed time, and he came back and took almost 30 shots. Look, the word sacrifice should never come out of his mouth, Greeny. You remember the last time I was on the show and I said that KD was going to be Batman, James Harden was going to be Robin, and Kyrie was going to be Alfred the Butler? You might as well throw that out the window because Kyrie Irving is not taking a backseat to no one, and he showed us that last night.
So I just wrote this down for you here. KD took 25 shots in the game last night. Kyrie took 28. James Harden took only 14. How does that formula sound to you going forward?
It don't sound good. And here's the thing. Steve Nash has to do a better job of staggering their minutes. He has to play Kyrie Irving in a 6-man role. That doesn't mean he doesn't start him, but when you look at what the bench gave them yesterday, it was only 10 points. Bring Kyrie back in with that second unit and let him rock out because he's not passing the ball. On top of that, you're going to need a guy like Joe Harris to come up big for you in the playoffs. And last night, his shots wasn't there. They wasn't finding him to get good looks, and they're going to need him. So Steve Nash is going to have to address this team like a mannequin and let them know that sacrifice, team ball, all three of these guys need to be taking under 20 shot attempts a game in order for this to be a success, in my opinion.
And we will all pay all the attention in the world, and understandably, to that side of the floor. But at the end of the day, the Cavaliers came into this game as the worst offense in the NBA. And the Nets allowed them 147 points, granted, in 2 overtimes. Can they stop anybody? Is their defense as much of a concern as I think it is?
Hell yeah, it is, Green. Look, right now the Nets can't stop you, Dan Orlovsky, Big Damian Woody, Big Marcus Spears, and Ryan Clark at LA Fitness. They cannot guard anybody. And look, I said this when they traded Jared Allen, that they were going to miss him, and they did. When you watched them last night, they moved Kevin Durant to the 5, and that wasn't a good look. The Cleveland Cavaliers shot 50% from the field, 50% from 3, and let's just not go get it. So, I don't know if they need to, go over schemes or defensive schemes or whatever they need to do, but they got to figure it out right now on the defensive side.
Okay, and so all of that is great, and we will have plenty more time to break down the hoops. But there was one other thing I wanted to bring up with you, Kendrick, and in order to do this, I want to bring our friends Damian Woody and Dominique Foxworth in early this morning. We have had a great deal of fun so far this week, Kendrick, watching the video you posted of your son playing basketball over the weekend. The swag is remarkable. Big Perk, take us through this a little bit here. Look at that.
Well, Greeny, look, I'm raising little beasts over here. So, look, and he was 7 years old at the time. He's 9 now. But, look, we don't have friends when we step on the court. But I don't care what age you is. You got to dominate. And you see the walk, Greeny. That's called swag. That's called bringing that intensity.
Can I just confirm once again that the video we're watching here is your son was 7 years old?
Yeah, he was 7 at the time, Greeny.
He was 7 at the time. You know the expression, Neek, he was big when he was little? I mean, I've never seen a better demonstration of that in my entire life.
I think because he's Perk's son, you want to call him Little Perk because Perk is Big Perk, but I feel like it's just 2 big Perks. And I've seen the 9-year-old videos. He's put him up. The man got a block and then went down on the other end of the floor and shot a 3. He didn't seem to need any help. That man is a beast, and I hope you got him playing some D-tackle, too. At that size and that intensity, nobody's running the ball against that dude.
Yeah, D Wood, I was thinking that guy looks more like an NFL. He looks like an NFL player waiting to happen than an NBA player.
Hey, listen. Big Perk and now we some big dudes, man. But I'm gonna have to tell Perk, I'm gonna come down to Texas and check out that birth certificate, cause man, that boy is too swole, Perk. Ain't no way that boy 9 years old. What you feeding? You got them grits going on down there with that boy.
Hey, D. Woody, Greeny, and you right, he do play football. He played nose guard to be exact. But, hey, look, you know how we doing it down here, Greeny. We raising nothing but beasts, Woody and Foxy, nothing but beasts. If he want to play football, that's okay with me, too.
I love it. You know what? If the Nets right now need someone to play some defense, it looks like you might have the answer for their problem. Okay, we will much more hoops as we go. Big Bird, thank you for that, and thank you for the video and being a good team
this year. And it's proven to be he is the person that we thought he could be. Now, on the opposite side with the Nets, this doesn't really concern me, them losing a game, right? LeBron James, D. Wade, Chris Bosh, they lost their debut. Kevin Durant, Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, they lost their debut. The only thing that's kind of concerning is that they gave up 147 points. And that's the one thing we're going to be paying attention to as it relates to this team. We know they can outscore people. We know they can, go on 20-0 runs. They have the scoring power to do so. But their ability to get stops down the stretch, who's going to be that guy? Who's that guy that you say, go get him, Colin Sexton, go get Colin Sexton and stop him? That's going to be the question. 147 points against one of the worst offensive teams in the league. That's concerning.
No doubt. It's Keyshawn J. Will Zubin. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. All of our guests just this morning will join on the Goodyear hotline. It's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Key, a couple of stats that just have to be mentioned with Sexton. This might be the most amazing NBA stat of the young season. Colin Sexton, you ready for this, fellas?
Yes, I am.
Scored 15 points in the second overtime alone. He scored 15 points in the second overtime. As for the other point guard, Kyrie, quote, 2 overtimes for my first game back. You got to love NBA ball, though. I was smiling when Colin Sexton was making those shots. We should mention Kyrie because it was a double OT game. He did get up there. He played 48 minutes in his first game, Key, in about 15, 16 days. He hasn't played since January 5th. He was only back at practice on Tuesday.
Well, he's clearly in professional sports shape. I mean, he's a true athlete. So 2 weeks off, 3 weeks off is not going to do anything to his conditioning. The thing that amazes me, though, he comes back and he drops buckets and he plays his lumble superstar talent, have lost games along the way, first game, second games along the way, and eventually that core will figure it out together once they start to practice and understand it. But you got to stop somebody. You got to be able to play defense on somebody. because what'll happen is these coaches, as Jay knows in the NBA, will expose your weakness. When you start to go up against some of those teams that have guys that can put you not only on the perimeter, but also off the dribble, pounded down low. How can you counter that? I mean, you know, and that's a lot of the times in Mike D'Antoni's system. Well, I don't want to call it Mike. Well, I guess you can, right, Jay? Call it.
It's like Steve Nash, Mike D'Antoni system.
Okay,
yeah.
so with this style of play, as we've seen in the past, high volume, high shooting, a lot of scoring, but on the other end, no defense. So again, you cannot outscore everybody. You've got to play some defense.
It's going to be common practice that these guys, between the three of them, are going to be averaging around 65 to 70 shots a game. Like that's a given every game. Last night, Kyrie Irving also was returning to Cleveland, where he won a chip. So I think there was a little extra motivation there. But just let me tell you one quick story, Zubin, about Colin Sexton. Go back to his college days at Alabama. He was playing against Minnesota. Everybody on their team fouled out. They were left with 3 players on the court.
Do you remember?
Colin Sexton was one of 3 players, Key. It was 3 versus 5. I thought they were going to cancel the game, but they continued to play the game. Colin Sexton dropped 40 in that game, and they almost won.
So wait,
they almost
3
won.
on 5?
3 against,
The game
3
was in
against
Brooklyn.
5.
The game
Key.
was in Brooklyn. Yeah.
I've never seen this before. He dropped 40, and they had a chance to win the game down the stretch. That's who Colin Sexton is, though, just to remind people. I know he plays for the Cavs, but that boy can light it up.
3 on 5, that sounds like a practice drill, Jay.
Exactly. And he was, Key, I'm telling you, they had 2 cats on him the whole time. He was just taking, it was like 1 versus 5. He wasn't passing to nobody. He was dropping 4. I've never seen anything like it before in my life.
I think he's going to continue to develop, especially as they get some stability in Cleveland and not all the back and forth, changing coaches in and out. Once they get that stability, I think he'll continue to just develop. You can't have change all the time.
Yeah, one last thing I would mention, Jay's right on the money there with the attempts per game. Last night, if you add the 3 together, it was actually 67 shots between the 3 guys. But again, you cannot ignore the fact that everybody is filling it up again. In Kyrie's first game back, as they're trying to integrate him back in, Durant has 38, Kyrie has 37, Harden has a triple-double. And oh, by the way, they'll get a good sense of where they are because their next opponent, same team. They're going to play the Cavs again on Friday. Straight Talk Wireless, no contract, no compromise.
That just seemed like a lot. But Jay explained it to me. Got a break.
Got a break.
Screaming at me.
And that game was in Brooklyn, by the way. That 3-on-5 game. College basketball fans will remember it for sure. On the
Andrews reports.
John, this isn't the end result that the Brooklyn Nets wanted. Steve Nash said after the game that at times the group looked, quote, a little lost, but he said that was natural because this is the first time that they have played together. So there's a lot of material for them to go over in film sessions tomorrow. But Kyrie Irving seemed genuinely happy to finally be back on the floor with his teammates.
And always playing the game that I love.